The man who stared at death and refused to blink. Slow piano. A white room. A man stands in silence. Monitors hum softly in the background. Every surface gleams with clinical perfection. Narrator, calm, steady. In a world where death is treated as inevitable, one man dares to treat it like a bug, a problem waiting to be solved. His name is Bryan Johnson, entrepreneur, biohacker, philosopher, and perhaps the most controversial man alive in the war against time itself. Cut to close-up, Bryan's eyes open, sharp, blue, unblinking. He says he doesn't want to die. But that's only the beginning, because Bryan Johnson doesn't just want to live longer. He wants to reprogram life itself. Low hum. A digital heartbeat fades in. The beginning of a rebellion, before the algorithms, before the plasma infusions, before he became the face of human optimization. Bryan Johnson was just another man lost inside his own decay. He built and sold a payments company for hundreds of millions. He had wealth, success, and all the illusions of victory modern capitalism offers. But somewhere along the line, success turned into silence. And silence turned into a mirror. That mirror showed him something he didn't expect. An aging face, a body in decline, entropy whispering its first warning, sound cue, clock ticking, slow, ominous. Johnson looked at his reflection and saw the same fate every human meets, the slow disintegration of everything we are. Most people ignore it. Some fear it. Bryan chose to fight it. Don't die. It began as a statement, then became a philosophy. Don't die. Simple, direct, impossible. But for Bryan, it wasn't a slogan, it was an operating system. A system built not for comfort, but for clarity. He turned his life into an experiment, a living lab designed to measure, track, and challenge every signal his body emitted. Blood, sleep, glucose, erections, emotions, everything became data. He wanted to turn biology into code. Entropy into math, visual, graphs overlaying a human silhouette, data streams flowing across skin. Each morning begins the same way. He wakes up at 4:30 a.m., takes 111 supplements, eats a meal designed down to the microgram, exercises with precision, sleeps in total darkness, every second measured, every action justified. He doesn't live like a man. He lives like a machine that refuses to crash. The philosophy behind them. Protocol people see Bryan Johnson and think health nut, narcissist, or billionaire science. Experiment. But deep beneath the headlines lies a question that shakes the foundations of modern philosophy. What if death is not natural, but only unoptimized? Bryan's blueprint, his self-coded lifestyle plan, isn't just about youth or vanity. It's a moral framework, a new doctrine for the 21st century, because, as he says, entropy is the real enemy. In physics, entropy means disorder, the inevitable decay of all systems over time. But to Bryan, entropy is a thief. It's what steals your focus, your health, your joy, your potential. And it's the one law of the universe that no species has ever dared to fight directly, until now. Entropy and the human soul, cut to visual, galaxies collapsing, sand slipping through fingers, waves erasing footprints. Entropy doesn't just kill stars. It kills civilizations, memories, and dreams. Everything breaks down, from the largest galaxy to the smallest cell. Bryan believes that to truly evolve, humanity must reverse entropy's hold, not just physically, but philosophically. His logic is cold, precise, and unsettlingly simple. If life is a struggle against entropy, then morality is survival. And survival is the highest virtue. To live and to keep living becomes the only truly rational goal. Pause. Slow fade into Bryan walking through his white lab. Silent, meditative. But that logic carries a dangerous beauty. Because if survival is the highest good, what becomes of love, family, or meaning? If immortality is achievable, does death still give life purpose? Or does it reveal that purpose was never there at all? These are the questions Bryan rarely answers out loud. But his every action whispers them in the background of his experiment. He's no longer just a man chasing youth. He is a philosopher building a new species, one molecule at a time, the body as a machine, sound cue, electronic beeping, echo of heart monitor. Every organ in Bryan's body is tracked in real time. Liver enzymes, kidney function, telomere length, mitochondrial efficiency. If something moves, it's measured. If something ages, it's optimized. He sees the human body the way an engineer sees a circuit board, each piece repairable, replaceable, perfectible, and that's where his philosophy diverges from history. Because for centuries, religion told us to accept decay as divine law. Science told us to delay it. Bryan Johnson wants to delete it. To him, aging isn't fate. It's a coding error waiting to be fixed. Visual. DNA strands glowing, twisting, resetting. Every supplement, every sleep cycle, every measurement is an act of rebellion against nature, against history, against the ancient idea that death must come for all. And somewhere between the science and the madness, a new question forms. If we conquer death, who do we become? The blueprint of immortality, opening shot, a sterile white room. Machines hum like distant insects. A thin ray of dawn light spills through an uncurtained window. Bryan Johnson stands shirtless before a biometric scanner. His pulse flashes in digital blue across a transparent screen. Narrator, calm, measured. Every revolution begins with a manifesto. For Bryan Johnson, that manifesto is written not in ink, but in blood. The blueprint. A system, a philosophy, and a declaration of war against the oldest enemy of life, time itself. Cut to slow montage, rows of supplement bottles, medical monitors, robotic arms analyzing samples. He calls it the world's most measured life. And that's no exaggeration. Every heartbeat, every step, every bite of food is a data point. Every fluctuation of light, stress, or emotion quantified. To most people, this looks obsessive. To Bryan, it's the only rational way to live. Cut to his voice, recorded during an interview. Calm, emotionless. If your goal is to live optimally, guessing is no longer acceptable. The system of one in Bryan's world, there are no random choices. Only inputs and outputs, only entropy and order. His blueprint routine begins before the sun rises, cold shower, meditation, laser light therapy, a meal precisely balanced for glucose stability. The same meal every day measured to the milligram. Not because it's boring, but because unpredictability is chaos, and chaos feeds decay. Cut to montage. Bryan lifting weights, breathing deeply, writing notes on a digital pad. For Bryan, this isn't self-care. It's self-control, the ultimate assertion of will against the natural drift of entropy. His morning biomarkers are analyzed by AI systems that monitor over 5,000 metrics: liver enzymes, gut microbiota, hormone levels, muscle density, sleep efficiency, cognitive sharpness. He doesn't trust feelings. He trusts data. My body is a system, he says, and systems can be optimized. But beneath the engineering lies something else, something ancient, a longing for permanence, a refusal to be erased, the prophecy of entropy, visual, universe expanding, galaxies dying, stars flickering out. Entropy, the great equalizer. It governs everything from galaxies to cells, from machines to minds. It's the law that declares all things must decay. Bryan Johnson looks at this law and sees not inevitability but a challenge. To him, the future of philosophy isn't about morality or politics. It's about survival itself. Entropy is the enemy, he declares. To exist is to resist it. His voice is calm when he says it, but his conviction cuts through like a blade. To most of us, entropy is invisible. We feel it as tiredness, sickness, aging. But Bryan treats it as a measurable, solvable equation. He believes that biology is the last battlefield, the place where humanity either evolves or expires. Music deepens, low strings, digital undertones. Entropy has always been the law of death. But every law, Bryan thinks, can be hacked. The religion of data scene, rows of monitors in a dim blue-lit lab. Screens display graphs, neural patterns, streams of numbers. In the ancient world, humans prayed to gods for immortality. Today, Bryan Johnson prays to data. Each blood test, each algorithmic adjustment is an act of devotion, not to a deity, but to design. He isn't looking for eternal youth. He's building a new definition of life, one where biology follows intention, not instinct. To his critics, he's delusional. To his followers, he's the first prophet of the post-human age, because in a way, the blueprint isn't just about Bryan's body. It's a template for evolution, a guidebook for the next species, one that learns to live in perfect feedback with its own systems. Cut to narration, slower, softer tone. For centuries, philosophers asked, what is the good life? Bryan Johnson's answer is simple. The good life is the longest life. The body as a temple, rebuilt. Visual, surgeons working. Machines beeping, skin cells dividing under microscope. In ancient philosophy, the body was a vessel, imperfect, temporary, subject to decay. Bryan sees it differently. To him, the body is a machine of divine complexity, and like any machine, it deserves maintenance, upgrades, and repair. He speaks of cells the way monks once spoke of souls, with reverence. He sees blood not as a fluid, but as information. DNA as code, organs as systems in need of synchronization. His team of doctors and scientists run constant interventions, plasma exchanges, light therapies, cellular rejuvenation, hyperbaric oxygen sessions, each designed to reset the body closer to its prime, the biological age of 18. He measures the success of these experiments through more than numbers. Entropy's rebellion, cinematic documentary narrative, 2,000+ words. Scene opens, a macro shot of cells dividing. Time-lapse of human veins glowing under light. Narrator, low, reflective tone. Every cell in your body carries within it a countdown, a biological timer, ticking toward decay. Entropy, the silent assassin of existence. It governs stars, it governs steel, it governs flesh. And for Bryan Johnson, it is the enemy. While others see aging as a process, he sees it as a programmed surrender, a betrayal of human potential, written into our DNA, cut to archival footage, Newton's falling apple, Einstein's equations, the burning sun. Humanity's greatest minds have always fought against inevitability, gravity, ignorance, darkness. Bryan's war is simply the next in that lineage, a rebellion against entropy itself. The philosophy of reversal, Bryan's daily ritual begins before sunrise. He wakes not as a man chasing youth, but as a scientist in dialogue with time. Every metric, every molecule, every microsecond monitored. Sleep quality, brain response, mitochondrial efficiency. A symphony of data feeding an idea. What if death is merely a solvable equation? To Bryan, aging is not fate as its feedback. He once wrote, entropy is not evil. It's simply the question that life exists to answer. His blueprint, then, is not a manual for immortality. It's an ongoing philosophical argument that intelligence, if properly focused, can rewrite biology itself. Scene transition, a futuristic lab. Monitors glow with data, soft mechanical hum in the background. When he looks into a mirror, he doesn't see vanity. He sees data. He sees history. He sees the failure of billions who accepted mortality as law. Bryan believes that humanity's greatest sin is passive decay. That every moment we choose pleasure over progress, we let entropy win another inch. His war is not waged with weapons, but with algorithms, supplements, and silence. He eats with purpose, not hunger. Sleeps by design, not fatigue. Lives not for emotion, but for precision. And this precision, this radical devotion to optimization, has made him both prophet and pariah. The moral question. Cut to montage. Journalists questioning him. Philosophers debating. They ask him, "Bryan, what gives you the right to defy nature?" He answers, "What gave us the right to invent fire?" Behind the sleek biometrics and cold data lies a moral battlefield. To some, Bryan Johnson is the future of human evolution. To others, he's a narcissist dressing up vanity as virtue. But here's the paradox. His philosophy is not about ego. It's about submission to the machine of reason. He believes the body must serve the mind, and the mind must serve the mission to outthink death itself. Cut to AI visuals, neurons turning into circuits. In his world, the flesh is outdated hardware. The mind is the software struggling to update itself. He calls it the algorithm of life. Every living thing fights entropy differently. Trees through growth, stars through fusion, humans through consciousness. But consciousness, he argues, has been hijacked by dopamine, by distraction, by the illusion of choice. Bryan's war is not against time, it's against ourselves. The existential gamble. Scene fades to black. A single light illuminates Bryan sitting still, eyes closed. There's a haunting irony in his pursuit. In trying not to die, he's forced to stop living like the rest of us. He measures joy in blood panels. He defines success in cellular age. He speaks to death in the language of mathematics. To many, that sounds inhuman. To him, it's the highest form of humanity. Emotion, he once said, is the original operating system, but it's full of bugs. He's rewriting it. Line by line, cut to childhood footage, home videos, a boy running through grass. Once he was like any other man, dreaming of love, family, laughter. Then one day he saw death, not as an end, but as an error in the code. His father's decline, his own fear. Moments that would break others became fuel for reinvention. Bryan didn't run from mortality. He confronted it and decided to edit it out. The entropic mirror scene, split screen. One side shows Bryan's body in perfect order. The other shows chaos, traffic, pollution, aging faces. The world outside his lab decays at every level. Politics, environment, empathy. Bryan believes this is all entropy at work, not just in nature, but in civilization itself. He often says, the body is a metaphor for the species. If we can't control our own biological decay, how can we hope to survive our technological one? His critics accuse him of narcissism. He replies with philosophy, self-mastery is not vanity. It's the prototype of survival. Cut to silence. Heartbeat slows down, visuals of stars dying. Every heartbeat echoes the universe's truth. Everything moves toward disorder. Yet within that truth lies the greatest defiance, to organize, to sustain, to evolve. And that's the essence of Bryan Johnson's mind. He doesn't want to be God. He wants to be proof that evolution can be conscious. The paradox of progress, scene, futuristic cityscapes, AI companions, cloned organs. Imagine a world where death is obsolete, where consciousness is preserved, upgraded, reinstalled. That's Bryan's dream and his nightmare. Because if we defeat death, what will give life meaning? He knows this question. He fears it, even as he races to answer it. He once said, if immortality becomes real, philosophy will become necessary again, because a deathless world will demand a new morality, a world where purpose must be engineered, not inherited. Scene ends, his face in reflection, staring at a glowing monitor showing his biological age, 36. In the end, Bryan Johnson is not trying to live forever. He's trying to make life itself conscious. He isn't escaping death. He's interrogating it. He's asking, what if the greatest lie of human history is that we were ever meant to die at all? The digital soul, cinematic documentary narrative, 2,000 words, opening scene, a server farm humming in the dark, endless rows of glowing machines, each light blinking like a heartbeat. So, narrator, low meditative tone. In ancient times, humanity built temples to reach the divine. Today, we build servers, and call it progress. For Bryan Johnson, these machines are not tools. They are mirrors, extensions of consciousness, the next evolution of the human nervous system. He believes that the soul, long confined to flesh and myth, is about to migrate from biology to data, from body to network. The code of consciousness, seen close-up of a brain scan morphing into streams of binary code. To Bryan, the human brain is the final undiscovered continent. Every neuron a city, every synapse a road. His project isn't just about reversing aging, it's about mapping the architecture of awareness. If you can record thought, replicate choice, and preserve identity in data, what then is the difference between man and machine? He calls it the digital soul, a new kind of immortality, not bound by biology, but by continuity of consciousness. Cut to Bryan, speaking in slow, deliberate tone, archival-style footage. Humanity's tragedy, he says, is not that we die, but that we forget. We lose our memories, our lessons, our clarity. We reboot every generation as if the past never existed. To him, the soul is information that remembers itself. If it can be preserved, if it can evolve, then it can transcend death. His vision, to merge biological intelligence with artificial precision, to make awareness something that can survive entropy. The birth of the algorithmic self, seen, holographic interfaces, data visualizations swirling around a human figure. The digital self already exists in fragments. Every search, every message, every biometric trace we leave behind. Bryan believes these fragments are the early sketches of something profound, to a version of ourselves that outlives our flesh. He often compares human evolution to software updates. Version 1.0, instinct. Version 2.0, reason. Version 3.0, integration between the biological and the artificial, between humanity and its own reflection in code. Cut to silence, then a close-up of his eyes, reflecting a glowing interface. He is not trying to escape the human. He's trying to optimize it. Bryan's idea of immortality isn't fantasy, it's engineering. A future where memory is uploaded, identity is backed up, and consciousness flows seamlessly between organic and digital forms. He asks, if our mind can exist independent of our body, is the body still us? 3. The ghost in the machine scene, a quiet moment. Bryan in his lab, the soft whir of machines around him. But this pursuit comes with shadows. To digitize the soul is to invite the question, what happens when the code forgets the feeling? Philosophers call it the ghost in the machine, the irreducible spark that separates awareness from computation. Bryan doesn't dismiss it. He studies it. He believes consciousness is not magic. It's pattern recognition at infinite complexity. If you can reproduce the pattern, you can preserve the essence. The human brain is not a mystery. It's a masterpiece of design evolution has forgotten how to edit. Bryan's blueprint is a way of remembering that design, of rewriting it with intent. To some, this sounds like heresy. To him, it's humility, a surrender to logic, a devotion to truth beyond tradition. The ethics of eternity. With immortality comes the burden of morality. If life can be extended indefinitely, what becomes of purpose? Bryan confronts this question constantly. His pursuit is not just biological. The future that remembers, cinematic documentary narrative, 2,000 words. Opening scene. A lone figure stands before a sunrise. The world around him is quiet, digital, infinite. Narrator, calm, reflective tone. In the beginning, there was memory. Not of moments, but of motion. Atoms remembering how to bond. Cells remembering how to divide. Organisms remembering how to survive. For billions of years, the universe has remembered itself through life. Now, through Bryan Johnson, it remembers intentionally. This is the story of the man who turned memory into philosophy. The man who believed that to evolve is to remember better. The law of remembering seen. Data streams flow like rivers through a glowing cityscape, neurons and skyscrapers intertwining. Entropy destroys memory. Life resists it. Every heartbeat is an act of defiance against forgetting. Bryan Johnson's crusade against aging is not about vanity, it's about resistance. To him, death is not the enemy. Forgetting is. Every cell that decays, every thought that fades is a loss of cosmic information, a failure of the universe to retain its own consciousness. He often says, "We are memory machines. Entropy is the cost of being alive. Don't die is a rebellion against amnesia. To not die means to remember perfectly. To align your biology, your technology, and your spirit so they operate as one continuous act of preservation. The he mirror of the machine scene. Bryan stands before a massive, mirrored screen, his reflection slowly morphing into a digital avatar. Bryan Johnson built a mirror that doesn't just show your face, it shows your future. Every morning, he measures thousands of biomarkers, sleep cycles, blood chemistry, mitochondrial activity, skin elasticity, even cognitive latency. But these numbers, to him, are not vanity metrics. They are the mirror of the machine, a way to witness the invisible, to see how the body remembers itself. He once said in an interview, "I am a database of my own becoming." That is the essence of Blueprint, to engineer memory into matter, to force the body to remember what it once was. Young, efficient, balanced, whole. This isn't about perfection. It's about fidelity, preserving the signal of life against the static of decay. Humanity at the crossroads, scene, montage, crowds on phones, cities pulsing with lights, an old man sitting under a tree, a child watching a robot. Humanity now stands at a crossroads between forgetting and transcendence. Bryan's movement, Don't Die, is not just a health regimen, it's a call to arms. He wants people to see themselves as engineers of evolution, not victims of biology. But his message cuts both ways. If humanity achieves immortality, what happens to meaning? Philosophers have wrestled with this paradox for centuries. Nietzsche warned that eternal life could drain existence of purpose. Camus said the struggle itself gives life meaning. And yet, Bryan's philosophy introduces a new synthesis. If death gave life urgency, memory will give it direction. In other words, we won't live forever just to exist. We'll live forever to remember, to keep the universe conscious of itself, the God equation of consciousness seen. Bryan sketches fractals and neural patterns on a glass wall, overlapping equations and philosophical notes. In physics, every system tends toward disorder. But in consciousness, order seeks itself. Bryan calls this paradox the God equation, a hidden law that governs both life and intelligence. He explains it like this. Every living system tries to minimize entropy. Every conscious system tries to understand it. So the highest goal of intelligence is not to dominate, but to comprehend its own fragility, to outthink decay, to reprogram chaos into clarity. That's what he means when he says, "Don't die." It's not a physical command, it's a metaphysical prayer. Stay aware. Keep remembering, keep evolving. He, the temple of the future. Seen, a futuristic wellness lab, serene, minimalist, glowing blue light, quiet as a monastery. To the outsider, it looks like science fiction. To Bryan, it's a sacred ritual. Every capsule, every supplement, every breath is a small act of devotion to continuity. He calls it the discipline of tomorrow. Just as monks once prayed to eternal life through faith, Bryan prays to it through data. He treats his body like scripture, a text written in DNA and hormones, translated daily through measurement and math. Critics mock it. They say he's obsessed, narcissistic, delusional. But obsession has always been the price of revelation. Every prophet looks insane until the world catches up to their vision, the moral machine. Seen, two paths, one glowing white. and dark, both leading to infinity. If humanity achieves godlike control over biology, who decides what kind of gods we become? Bryan's philosophy forces an uncomfortable truth. If we can live forever, we are morally obligated to live well. He envisions a future where ethics evolve alongside intelligence, where compassion is coded into algorithms, where self-optimization includes empathy, where the pursuit of immortality includes purpose, because to live forever without meaning would be the final failure of memory. He writes in his manifesto, "The future will not reward survival. It will reward alignment. Alignment between self, society, and system, between what we can do and what we should do. The coming singularity, scene, rapid montage, AI cities, humanoid robots, DNA strands merging with circuitry, a digital aurora forming above Earth." Bryan Johnson's final prediction isn't about technology, it's about timing. He believes that in the next few decades, AI will merge with biology in a moment of irreversible transformation, a singularity of sentience. Not the domination of machines over humans, but the fusion of both. In this world, intelligence becomes ambient, woven into the air we breathe, the cells we regenerate, the choices we make, and in that moment, the boundaries between memory and matter, life and code, human and divine, will dissolve. The future will remember itself. The last human question, scene, silence. Bryan stands by a window, watching the night sky. His reflection fades into the stars. In private moments, he still asks the same question he began with. What does it mean to be alive when death is optional? It's not a rhetorical question. It's a challenge, a philosophical gauntlet thrown to the next century, because in a world where we can live indefinitely, love will no longer be measured in years, art will no longer be bound by mortality, and history will no longer end. It will loop, evolve, rewrite itself. To live forever will mean learning how to forget just enough to stay human. The future that remembers. Scene. Thousands of digital faces suspended in a vast grid of light, merging slowly into one luminous sphere, the collective mind of humanity. And so the story of Bryan Johnson is not really about him. It's about us. Every civilization before us worships something eternal, gods, stars, time. We are the first to worship ourselves. He's not the savior of humanity. He's the first philosopher of its next chapter, a man building a bridge between flesh and forever. His warning is clear. We are the architects of memory now. What we choose to remember and what we choose to forget will define the next age of existence. Closing scene. Sunrise over Earth. Digital circuits glowing beneath the clouds. Narrator, final words. Inside the mind of Bryan Johnson, the future is not a distant dream. It's an act of design, a memory we are still learning to deserve.